It's Shannon from Wine, Tea, and Paper, and today is Vlogmas Day 18. There's only 7 more days left until Christmas, so that means there are 7 more days of Vlogmas. Again, I did not record today. Nothing exciting happened today. I just kind of went to work. I came home. I spent some time with my family, and now I'm just gonna kind of relax, watch some YouTube, catch up on some things. So I don't really have a lot going on. So kind of like what I did yesterday, I'm just gonna give you guys a video that I recorded that I was gonna publish outside of Vlogmas, but I think I'm just gonna publish it for Vlogmas instead. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about what I read for November last month. Today I am doing my November wrap-up video. I know it's the middle of December, but I've been busy with Vlogmas and I've just had a lot going on. I've been switching between my house and my boyfriend's house, so I finally had some downtime to get some videos filmed. So like I said, today we are talking about the books that I read in November. First off, I want to start off by saying that I read 10 books in November and I read 2,450 pages. I didn't do so well keeping track of my audiobooks this month, so I don't really know how many minutes I listened to, but I can say that I listened to 3 audiobooks this month. A decent amount of my time was spent on audiobooks. So I'm just gonna start with the books that I read in the beginning and work my way to the end. First, I read Once Upon a Wishmas by Laura Bernard, and I gave it a 3.5 star rating. This was not my typical book that I normally read. It was a very contemporary romance book that's also like mixed with a holiday book. I was actually on a blog tour for this book, and the way I put it is that it was kind of like a Hallmark movie in a book. It was good for those that like that type of thing, but like I said, I don't normally read those kinds of books. Romance and contemporary romance is a very new genre for me, and I'm not really into it, to put it that way. I found the ending to be very predictable. Also thought it to be unbelievable. So that took a lot of the stars away for me. Like I said, people that like the Hallmark movie type of book will enjoy this book, but it just was not for me. Like I said, 3.5 stars. The next book that I read in November was The Institute by Stephen King. I listened to this one on Scribd as an audiobook. I'll leave a link in my description box down below. If you guys want to give Scribd a try, you'll get 2 months free before you have to pay. I believe it's like $9.99, and you get like unlimited access to books and audiobooks, and I'm really enjoying it. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks in the car. The Institute was one of those books that I listened to in November. I listened to the majority of it on my way to Michigan to visit my friends, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. So The Institute isn't like Stephen King horror. It's really not a horror novel, even though it was listed for the Goodreads awards under horror. I would say it was really more of a sci-fi book that was kind of creepy. It really wasn't a horror novel at all. But I really enjoyed it. I love the way that King did this book. He did a great job with the characters because they're all children. Like, the majority of these characters are children with like telekinetic and telekinesis like powers, and I just thought that was so cool the way he did it. And like, it was very unsettling, like how these children were being treated. It really made you think about a whole bunch of stuff. I really enjoyed that book, and I would honestly pick up the physical book and read it just because I enjoyed the audiobook so much, and that's saying a lot. So I'm giving that book 5 stars. Next, I have Tears of Frost by Bree Barton. I listened to Heart of Thorns in October, and this is her 2nd book. It came out, I think, November 4th or 5th, one of those days. and I was on the blog tour for this book. I received a e-copy to read to be part of the tour, and I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the first book. It was less predictable for me, and since I learned a lot of the world in the first one, the second book was interesting because I got to see a different like section of the world. Like the world is broken up into like 4 like kind of countries, and we got to see like another section of it in book 2. So that was really cool, and I enjoyed seeing that other part, as well as going back to the first part. There were a lot of connections, and it was really interesting the way that the magic kind of evolves and devolves. The main character, Mia, loses some of her magic in book 2, and it's kind of neat to see how in the first book she was learning how to use her magic, and then in book 2 we're seeing how she's learning how to deal without having it, but while also trying to get it back. So that was really cool. I liked that aspect of it. I thought it was really enjoyable, and I can't wait for the third book for Bree Barton to write the third one. I want to see more of the other realms or countries or whatever in the third one. But I'm excited to see what comes next, and I gave that one 4.5 stars. And then I listened to The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. So this is the prequel to Practical Magic, which is also a movie that you might, I think it's a Hallmark movie or ABC Family movie, something like that. This follows the generation before Practical Magic, and I haven't read Practical Magic yet, so I wanted to start with Rules of Magic, and I'm really glad that I did, because I got a lot of like backstory and more of that world building, I think, in this prequel that's going to help me when I read Practical Magic. And I listened to it, and I really liked the narrator and how he did the different voices, the different situations, and it was just really well done, and I gave that one 5 stars. Next, I read The Furies. I received an e-arc of this book from NetGalley and St. Martin's Press. So thank you to NetGalley and St. Martin's Press for allowing me to read this book before it came out. The Furies was like a disappointment for me. I was really excited for The Furies because it was about witches and this dark magic and the occult, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. This is like, it's Halloween's over, but like I'm excited to like read this book and like keep the magic going, and I was very disappointed. I have a review of The Furies on my blog, and I'll link that below if you guys are interested in seeing more of my thoughts on that. But I, like, when I read the synopsis of this book, and I was like, wow, like this sounds awesome. Like there's these girls, and they're dealing with dark magic and like things they don't understand, and there's like people are dying and you don't really know what's happening, and then you read the book and like where is all of that stuff that was in the synopsis, because it's not in the book. Like, did they get the synopsis mixed up like with a different book that sounds way better than this one? Because like the magic was like hinted at. Like there was this one moment where like they did magic, but like did they, or was it a coincidence? Like everything that happened because of their magic was a coincidence or accidental. That's what I think. And there was this kind of thing with the history of the school that they go to and the one dean, and like where does that tie into everything? Like I feel like it's just a bunch of loose ends. Like it didn't wrap up the way I wanted it to. And because of that, I gave it 3 stars, but I really should have gave it 2.5 stars, but I gave it 3 stars because I'm hoping that Katie Lowe writes a sequel and she wraps some of those loose ends up and explains what freaking happened, because I'm really upset about it. But I'm not going to get into a rant because I don't want this video to be super long. So I'm going to leave it at that. 3 stars, The Furies by Katie Lowe. I'm finally getting into my physical books. I feel like all of them have been either like ebooks or audiobooks, but I read November 9th. I did not read it on November 9th. I read it before November 9th, and we talked about it on November 9th. I read this with my Bookish Ladies Club on Instagram. We're doing a like binge read of all of Colleen Hoover's books. Right now, I think we're reading It Ends With Us, but this is gonna be, that will be my third book that I've read by Colleen Hoover, and this was my first one. I bought this book as a sale from Colleen Hoover, and it was this book. It is autographed and personalized. So the first copy that I got, a chunk in the middle of the book was missing, and it was replaced with Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. So I got to this part in the book and I turned the page. Oh, it's this one. Okay. So it ends on page 184. So like Oliver is born. So Fallon just finds out like something huge on this November 9th, and she walks away from Ben and Oliver, and then I turn over to the next page to read on because this is like super dramatic, and it says, her question slams into me and I have no idea why. We've been headed there this entire conversation. And it makes no sense, like what I just read, and then reading those two sentences, and I'm like, what? Like, what happened? And then I look and the font's different, and then I look up at the top, and it says Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and then down here it says Colleen Hoover. And then I'm flipping through, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's just one page, it got misplaced. No, 30 pages of Josh and Hazel's Guide of Not Dating, like in the middle of my book. And then I start to panic. And I message in my group chat, and I'm like, my pages are missing. I have Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating instead. And other people were like, yeah, that happened to me too. Let me send you the pages that you're missing so you can at least finish the book. I was like, thank goodness, thank you. So I read that section on my phone, and then I went back to reading the book. And then I messaged Colleen Hoover's assistant. I emailed her, and I was like, you will never believe what happened. Like, I don't have a complete copy of the book. I just bought this book from you, and there's a section of Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. And she's like, I do believe that because you're not the first person to email us. So she sent me another November 9th copy that's signed and personalized by Colleen Hoover. So I have one misprint, and then I have one that's not a misprint. Where is my other one? Let me find it. I have no idea where my good copy went. But I grabbed a sweater because it's cold in my house. I don't know where my good copy is. I don't know. Who knows? I sure don't. I did enjoy this book. Like I said before, romance is not my typical genre, but Colleen Hoover writes romance in a way where it's not just a romance book. There's kind of like this aspect of like what's gonna happen, and it's not very predictable, and I like that about her writing and how she tells her story. So I like her genre of romance, and I gave November 9th 4 stars, and I didn't give it 5 stars because I don't remember why. Next, I read The Grace Year. Finally, I was really excited to read this by Kim Liggett. Everyone was saying that it is very comparable to The Hunger Games and Divergent, and I'll tell you why people are comparing The Grace Year to those very notable dystopian novels. They are comparing The Grace Year to those novels because this is about young children, 16-year-olds, trying to survive in an environment they are not familiar with, or doing things that they would not normally do to survive. And that is why it is reminiscent of The Hunger Games and Divergent. The main character, her name's Tierney. She is turning 16, so that means it is her grace year. So with the rest of the girls that are also turning 16, they have to go away into the woods in this little camp where they spend the year getting rid of their magic. And then once they're there, some of these girls are dying, they're starving, there's like hunters that are poaching them, and Tierney is in this strange predicament where she's kind of an outsider in her own group, and she ends up outside of the encampment, and a whole bunch of stuff happens, and it's very mind-blowing, like all this stuff that happens. And then when you find out like what is really causing this magic, you're like, are you serious? Like, this whole time you thought it was magic, and then it turns out to be this other thing, and like that is mind-blowing too. And then the ending, oh my goodness, the ending, you don't know what happens. Like, I still don't know what happened. And there's a movie coming out, I don't know when, but it's in the works of being made, and I am so excited to see this movie and see if there's like hints in the movie more than what's in the book. And I really need like a prequel to this. I want to know what caused the Grey Seer, why this tiny county even does the Grey Seer, and then I want a prequel about what happens after this book, like way further after this book. That's what I want. Kim, that is what I want. Give me what I want. But I gave this book 4.5 stars. The only reason it didn't get 5 stars is this whole time I thought magic was involved, and then you find out there's no magic, and I'm like, But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I basically read this all in one day. I was up late finishing it, and then I woke up early the next day to finish it. It was really good. I will reread this book again, for sure. 4.5 stars. Next, I listened to another audiobook for Nonfiction November. This book was so quick and funny. It was Dear Girls by Ali Wong. I love Ali Wong. So my best friend, she just had her baby, and we were watching one of her stand-up shows on Netflix when we were over her house, and it was so funny. Like, me and her and our best friend were literally like rolling around on the couches laughing. Like, it was so hilarious, like watching her stand up. And then I listened to this book and I was like, okay, I'm expecting the same kind of like hilarity, and it was not the same as her stand-up, but it was still funny. It was very like informative to her daughters or to young girls, and it was very interesting to see her like tell these jokes in a different way, and I really enjoyed it. I listened to it very quickly. It only took me a couple days to listen to it. I do recommend this book to anybody that does love Ali Wong, or just comedy in general, feminist comedy, kind of being open about your body and your sexuality. If you like any of that kind of stuff, you'll like this. I gave it 4 stars. Again, I listened to it on Scribd, and if you're interested, the link is down below. Okay, I have 2 more. I read The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Now this is what I was expecting when I was reading the Furies. This was so good. So there's a lot going on in this book. Leigh is actually making this into a series, and the next one won't be released until like June 2020, and I'm really upset that I have to wait so long to get the next book, but I think it will totally be worth it because there is so much going on in this book. I read this as a buddy read for Let's Read, Rant, and Repeat over on Instagram. The admins are Allie and Jordan. This is just fantastic. I don't know what else to say. Leigh Bardugo normally writes YA fantasy, and this is a adult dark fantasy fiction. This takes place on Yale's campus, and it talks about the 9 like secret society houses. And apparently these houses are real. And Leigh Bardugo was actually a part of one of these houses and went to Yale. And that is what the inspiration was for this book. And there's just so many layers in this book. There's the creepy dark magic occult that I wanted from the Furies. There's this like dark magic that can be harnessed by normal people and these people in these societies. There's people dying. There's like a mystery going on. There's ghosts, and which they're called greys. There's a lot of like history involved. These societies, they're very rich in history and tradition, and it's just all like perfect. This is what I was looking for in a dark magic witch like book this is what I wanted. And Leigh Bardugo gave it to me. I gave this book 5 stars. I wish I could have gave it more stars if that was possible. I am so excited for the next book, and I will absolutely be rereading this book in 2020 because I want to refresh on it before I read the next installment. So this will be a reread for me come summer. Last, I have Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was my second Colleen Hoover book of the month and also of all time. This was a book in our Bookish Ladies Traveling Library. This was who sent it to me. I got it from Maryland. And now I have my postcard in here from Pittsburgh, and I'm gonna fill it out, put it in here, and ship it off to the next Bookish lady. But this book was described to me as a wild ride when I was getting ready to read this book. And that is probably the best way I can explain it to you. It is a wild ride. This book is crazy. It is like that one emoji where like that guy's brain is just like, that is the best way to describe this book. The mind blown emoji. I'll put it here. It's just crazy. You don't know who to believe. Like, this is top tier unreliable narrator. And it's not just unreliable narrator, it's like unreliable characters. I feel like after reading this, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust anything that happened in this book. I really can't. On the front, it says, sublimely creepy with a true Hoover pulse. I've been waiting for a thriller like this for years. And yes, this is a romantic thriller from Colleen Hoover. And it is so dark and twisted that I could not get enough of this book. It was fantastic. Probably, I've only read 2 Colleen Hoover books, but this one's definitely my favorite so far. So Noreen, I hope you're ready because this is coming your way. All right, friends, so that's all I have for you today. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Yeah. If you liked this video, if you like what I'm doing with Vlogmas, which I'll leave links up here and below if you want to check out my Vlogmas playlist. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. If you like what I'm doing, if you like the videos I'm providing you, go ahead and subscribe so you can see what else I have in store for this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.